Global cricket has a unique fascination in that 12 countries embrace the 5-day game among themselves, and the 4 and 3-day game domestically, while most associate countries such as Holland, Denmark, and Canada survive off the crumbs of the 1-day game. No wonder there is such a great divide between test playing and associate countries. It is really refreshing to hear former West Indies ace pacer Michael Owen outlining the importance of the 4-day game to Kenya captain Maurice Odumbe. You can hardly find a better analyst of the game than Owen. The ICC never stressed how important the 5 or 4-day game is to the development of the game in these countries. England and Australia might not have realized that over the years they have been an hindrance facing the progress of the game throughout the world. For almost 10 years, England and Australia prevent Zimbabwe from becoming a test playing country. If they had allowed Zimbabwe to become a test playing country in the 80s, when they applied for test status, Zimbabwe would have qualified for the World Cup without having to win the ICC trophy. For instance, in the mid 80s and early 90s, only winner of the ICC trophy were allowed to participate in the World Cup. Thus, England and Australia automatically kept out another associate country from competing in the World Cup during those years. South Africa have done a lot to help the game in Zimbabwe through the 20th century, but all the good work that South Africa has done to help the game in Zimbabwe was almost undone by England and Australia with their veto power. Even when Zimbabwe won a 4-3 vote in favor of playing Test cricket in the 1980s, a vote which was cast by all Test playing countries, England and Australia still refuse to grant them Test status. One get the feeling that England and Australia and ICC were trying to restrict Test cricket to a clique of countries. For almost 10 years, they kept out Zimbabwe out of Test cricket. If the ICC had not relieved England and Australia of the veto power, how long would they have kept out Bangladesh out of Test cricket? The next 30 or 40 years? England and Australia did not realize the amount of anguish they have caused the people of Zimbabwe and the Zimbabwe cricket team. Even if they believe that Zimbabwe were not quite ready to play Test cricket in the 1980s, which I knew they were, they could have even grant them Test status to play among the 2 weaker Test playing countries. As a result of the refusal to grant Zimbabwe test status in the 1980s, many Zimbabwe national players became frustrated and deserted their team. For instance, Zimbabwe's most hostile bowler Peter Raasen migrated to South Africa, and all-rounder Kevin Curran's interest was laid in England. What heightened the consternation was England, one of the two countries that prevent Zimbabwe from becoming a test playing country in the 80s, adopted Zimbabwe's brightest batting star, Graeme Hick. David Orton, the then captain of Zimbabwe, must have been broken-hearted over Hick's decision to play for England. A player of Hick's class could have been a stalwart in the Zimbabwe test team. England and Australia cricket board should be ashamed of themselves to see a country coming to the surface and they stood as stumbling block. The good work that South Africa has done in Zimbabwe cricket, England have never done in neighboring Scottish, Irish, Danish, or Dutch cricket. What England have done over the years is to use talented players from Wales, Ireland, and Scotland in their test team instead of encouraging these countries to be independent in the world of cricket. Over the years, England have allowed Scotland, Ireland, and Holland to play in their one-day NatWest Trophy. If England were serious about the game in those countries, then England would have allowed them to play in a 4-day domestic competition. 4-day game is a game that builds the character of a cricketer. This one-day game, back it with the 2020, which is called the Mickey Mouse game, and everything that is not cricket will not improve the game in this country. However, it is a very entertaining game, especially from a spectator point of view, and it can be the catalyst. The associate and affiliate country accept the 4 and 5-day game, which can appear to be time consuming. South Africa allows Zimbabwe to play in their first class 4-day Currie Cup competition before Zimbabwe became a test playing country, and this has helped Zimbabwe cricket tremendously. No associate countries has ever had that level of competition. No wonder when Zimbabwe came out of unacceptable isolation in the 80s, they were able to be so dominant in the ICC trophy. For any country to be dominant in the one-day game, back into the 2020, they have to play the 4 or 5-day game. In the 4 and 5-day game, a player bat at his own leisure, learn to occupy the crease, and is judicious about which ball to hit or leave alone. Thus the 4 and 5-day game help a player tremendously to develop the art of batting effectively. While the one-day game, a player does not always have the ample time to bat properly, and hence he always try a lot of rash stroke, and maybe never learn to bat correctly. During the years when South Africa was during the years when South Africa was banned from international cricket because of the apartheid policy, it was their first class 4-day game that kept their cricket fine-tuned. Hence, when they were welcomed back into the test fold, they were hence when they were welcomed back into the test fold after dismantling their apartheid system, they were able to compete effectively with other test playing countries.